mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad.
Well, welcome home, family. It's your mom and dad. And we're back in studio.
Back in studio, top of the hour.
The hour.
I had a little bit of a thing this last week, like a little bit of like a congestion thing.
Yeah.
And so now I have just a slight, like, it's a little
You've
hotter.
got that sensual rasp.
It's just like, hey, how are you?
I can feel it in my toes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everyone listening, that feeling you're experiencing right now? That, I don't know what it is. I'm working, right?
It's congestion.
But it's like a 15% arousal increase. You're welcome. That's what I bring today. I don't know if I'm going to bring any personality, any takes, but one thing I do bring
is the bass.
Is the bass, baby.
You're willing to suffer for our family
shaking.
so that you have that sexy
Yes,
voice.
I intentionally go and try to get mini colds so that I can bring the bass, baby.
You do so much for us.
Listen, it's small things.
For us. But family, we're back.
What's
we're
up?
We're back. We missed you. Thank you for understanding as we took last week off. Like I had mentioned, Miss Ember, our daughter, had spring break, so we had planned to take last week off anyway. And then turns out she ended up having a little project that mom and dad had to be present for. And like we shared, we can't really talk much about it now, but let's just say there was a little filming going on, and
some professional vibe,
we are
dude.
so proud of her. And I have never seen my child on cloud nine.
Dude, she's a rock star.
To the level she is buzzing, she is beaming.
And you would think, a full week of doing awesome stuff would make her slow down maybe a hair. All it does is increase the energy. So it's just really, truly at this point, she is a superhero who there is nothing that can impair her energy.
Nothing can stop her. And it was a wonderful week.
It was
and
amazing.
Can't wait to share
Yes.
when we're able to. But I'm so proud of her. I'm going to get emotional, and she's just so
She's
happy.
a rock star
And yeah. Anywho, we're not here to talk about happy things.
No.
We're here to talk about terrible things, aka
We're tired to talk about how awesome men are and how they behave well, consistent, honest,
honorable,
transparent,
loyal, faithful, honest,
and also
loving, kind, understanding.
And also one thing I want to talk about is how men in their late 20s are not influenced by their families at all. And that they are independent, strong people who do not take every single one of their friends and family's opinions too seriously, and they make their own decisions out there in the world.
I laughed so hard during the reunion when Vanessa asked Molly if she's started dating somebody.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, no, I've just been hating men for the past year. And I'm like, Love is Blind, you have traumatized all of us, okay? I'm out here trying to be understanding, and you're making it hard with the casting choices. And this wedding episode should have been called the one where the women say I don't. And I couldn't have been happier. I was so thrilled.
It was actually kind of wild. I wasn't expecting it.
No, I wasn't either. It actually shocked me.
Listen, I had faith in the women to make good choices, but I just will say leading up to, so just as the men led on their feelings or lack of, the women really led on like me thinking that they were like blinded by it.
Yes.
And then like most of them made incredible decisions.
And then at the end of the day, they were like, you know what? Can't shake this feeling.
Yeah.
And they all said, nope. And I was shocked, and I was also thrilled.
Yeah, shocked and thrilled. The one thing, just for me, before we get into all this, like the main takeaway, I think the thing that was the most shocking was the familial influence.
Yeah, it was intense.
And maybe it's just because like that's not my dynamic with my family and like how I grew up.
Don't say.
Like I grew up super independent. Like just right or wrong. Like there was,
I was going to say to the extreme negative. I would imagine.
I just didn't grow up in a house where it was like, you know, every opinion was put through and like it's like, it was just kind of, you were out on your own. So when I see people who are like 29 being like, I have to call my family and they'll make the decision for me.
My parents need to look over the prenup.
Or my parents need to look over the prenup. My parents decide whether they meet. It's like all this stuff. It was pretty just wild to watch because it's just so foreign to me. I gotta say, if I was the girls, like ick city, because it's just like, are we getting married or am I marrying your parents or your sister or
and
whatever?
Listen, it's like we love to see a close family.
Of course.
You know, we love to see it. But when, you know, again, the sister is laying down the royal decrees of whether you can go on a show. And then once she alloweth that Dave can go on the show, then her decree is, but you may not get engaged. He said she let me go on the show.
And that's what's crazy. And I will say there was one major ball drop in the show. Yeah. Like in my opinion, like a massive miss was they should have paid the sister whatever she demanded to come on the show.
Absolutely millions. Right? It's pay her what she wants. It's like, dude,
pay her a stupid amount of money because obviously she didn't want to come on because she was probably, you know, painted as kind of a villain. But like, dude, get her on.
We need her.
Because they should have had her on the couch because the power alone of that woman to control the narrative of the entire thing of their relationship is like, I gotta put eyes on this person.
Yeah, I gotta get eyes on her fast.
Because she's clearly
a superpower.
A superhuman. I mean, what is she doing in her own life? If she can control other people's lives?
I'll let you, she's the CEO of everything.
It's pretty unbelievable. I mean, we gotta meet her.
It's a little bit almost like you know, we want Lauren. We don't like that she's not treating Lauren nicely, but just have to say, like, you know, a pretty powerful individual
at that point. So that's the real bummer.
Anywho, we got a lot to talk about because today we are covering episodes.
It was through 14, which 14 was the reunion. So 10, 11, 12. No. 11, 12, 13, 14.
Thank you.
The ending of the show. Basically, and I know we're a little late on the game here, guys.
Basically, when everybody meets for the first time up fully at the bars, and then the bachelorette parties, and then the weddings and the reunion. That is what we're covering today. I think the
best way to look at what we've been doing is like when you have a great movie you watch, and then you show your friend, and then you want to be like, I want to get their reaction. We've already know that you guys have reaction to all these things.
And you're showing it to us.
You're showing it to us now. So sit in with us.
And wow, what a time. And I also have to say, I feel very validated about our initial takes. I feel like we might
unfortunately validated.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I do think that we truly, this might have been the most correct we were on anything ever from the very beginning.
And there were moments where I started to doubt myself.
I know, I backtracked.
You know, middle of the season, I was like, oh, maybe these guys are changing or different, or maybe and then it's like, no, we were right the whole time.
We were right the whole time. Yeah, even Joey, who
really had us for a moment.
Joey really got me.
Last episode, we were really...
Yeah, and we'll talk about Joey. Yeah. But, you know, I felt valid because I was like, okay, so I say we get into it and we go couple by couple and break this down. But let's take a quick pause first. Family. Well, I mean, end of the day, congrats to Daniel and Taylor. Congrats to the two of them. May I suggest christening your new home with a Lisa mattress? That is if you want to get a wildly comfy, blissful night of sleep. I'm absolutely obsessed with our Lisa mattresses. In fact, we are so obsessed that we initially just got a twin Lisa mattress for the room. And then all of us ultimately wanted to end up sleeping on this twin every night. So we treated ourselves to Lisa mattresses for the rest of the house. And let me tell you, the sleep that we have been getting on our Lisa is divine. My sleep quality has absolutely improved. And I've already shared this, but the mattress is so good that after my mom had spent the night a few times over at our house and slept on our twin Lisa mattress, she kept talking about how well she slept because she normally struggles with her sleep and how comfortable the mattress is. Well, she bought a Lisa mattress for her own home. So the proof is in the pudding. You know what I mean?
Yes, our bed is officially heaven. I never want to leave it. Using the highest quality materials, Lisa meticulously designs and assembles their mattresses in America for exceptional comfort and support. And what I love especially about Lisa is that they have several different mattress models to choose from, each designed for specific sleep positions and feel preferences. We have the Sapira Hybrid, and you know how we feel about it. Also, delivery is free, returns are easy, and you have 100 nights to try out your mattress in the comfort of your own home.
And by the way, with Lisa, your purchase has a purpose. Every year, Lisa donates thousands of mattresses to those in need, with more than 40,000 donated to date. So if you want improved, blissful, comfy sleep, I cannot recommend Lisa more. Even our dogs are happier, okay? They've always enjoyed our bed, but now we cannot get them out of it. They sleep on that Lisa mattress all day long. All day long, okay? Go to lisa.com for 20% off site-wide, plus get an extra $50 off with promo code MOMDAD. Exclusive for our listeners. That's LEESA.com, promo code MOMDAD to get 20% off site-wide plus an extra $50 off. Lisa.com, promo code MOMDAD. Remember, no matter who you are, there's a Lisa just for you. Okay. Before we officially get into this, this recap, next week. So now we're done officially with Love is Blind, even though we're so late on it. We're officially done now. So next week, tune in, because next week, maybe have another little D&D episode, because it's been a hot minute and I am jonesing, okay? So D&D call home episode. We're gonna have 2 episodes next week, so a D&D, maybe a call home. So send in those call homes to the hotline, the voicemails, and all of your questions, concerns, drama going on. Just go ahead and send it in. So that'll be next week. But after that, we've got some time. They haven't even announced when Bachelor in Paradise is happening yet. And we want to continue to cover some reality TV, mix it in with other types of episodes as well. But we want to know what you all want us to cover next. So start hitting up the YouTube comments. We'll maybe put up a poll next week at some point. We'll bring it up again. But let us know. I've heard a lot of Temptation Island, which I would happily cover, but we want to, we want to do what the family wants. So let us know. Temptation Island, that $1 million something that's out, the new Hulu one with some of the Bachelor people. So there's a lot of stuff. So we'll mention that in some of the options in an upcoming episode or two. But start letting us know what sounds good to the fam, because we want to recap what you all want, because we love you. Staring lovingly into the camera. Okay,
let's get into this.
So let's talk about this. So what I was saying is, I think per usual we go couple by couple, and even cover that couple's reunion moment.
Right.
So we'll just do the whole arc of these last 4 episodes.
As we finish them.
Yes. And I think we should start with Dave and Lauren, because at the top of the episode that we started with, we have a sit down conversation, basically the end of Dave and Lauren.
Agreed.
So basically Dave is, he just continues on the same path. He's like, so you're telling me you had a boyfriend? And she's like, I did not have a boyfriend.
Well, it's just really, it's the loop, It's like the worm was in his brain.
Yeah.
And at that point it was lost, and he couldn't wrap his brain around it. And he was hoping maybe for some magical thing to happen. But in his brain, it was like, I don't love you enough to push through all the drama in my life. Feeling. You know what I mean? Like, my sister, my friends are all saying this thing. For me to stay with you, I'd have to push them all aside, and I don't like you that much. It almost feels like that.
Well, I knew we were done for when he mentioned that the reason that this guy that Lauren had been hooking up with was known to the friends is because he was in a frat with some of them. And I go, oh boy, it's a fraternity situation. So what you're saying is we're done. Because it's like, you're my brother. How dare you turn on me if you know that I was once with her and now your friend of a friend is with her? That is against fraternity code, my guy.
Right. I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's worse than that.
I agree.
I don't think it's fraternity code. I think it's like, I don't want his seconds.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
I think that's more what it is. Like, I'm embarrassed because my friend like hooked up with you before me, and like I'm not getting his sloppy seconds energy.
Oh, for sure.
So
and
it's like him being like, I can't be hanging out with everyone knowing that he hooked up before me.
Massive yuck. Massive yuck.
Yeah.
And of course, she just continues to say, he makes a comment how he's like, well, you know, the guy's saying that you didn't end it.
Yeah.
And that's why he's contacting you. And she's like, there's nothing to end.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about like what a nightmare loop this had to be for Lauren. Like, imagine having someone who's kind of a friends with benefits situation. And like we said, we know this guy that she's hooking up with. We can just paint his picture.
Yeah.
You know, this guy was the guy who was probably making her feel so insecure constantly, was just like, baby, I know you might want to be with me, but like, you can't clip my wings. I gotta fly free. I'm a lone wolf. I can't be held down. I can't have a relationship now or ever. I don't think I could ever do it. And so she's like, yeah, okay, well, I'm enjoying just, you know, casually hooking up with you, blah, blah, blah. You come back home after getting engaged and the guy's like, we were in a relationship and she never ended it with me. What a nightmare.
What a nightmare.
What a nightmare for poor Lauren.
I know. And you know, just a really quick jump to the reunion.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is like, you know, we only see Nick and Vanessa. We only see them so few times, but like the reunion's one big one. And my favorite thing about Nick is that he's kind of the guy at the party who just wants to just kind of be himself. And then Vanessa's definitely the one who's like media trained. And so there's a lot of like this, shut up, you know, like grabbing the leg while he's talking. Then this is my favorite one when he goes, okay, let's just be honest. Who hasn't had a booty call every once in a while and then found the lover there right? And she's like, where are you going with this? Where are you going with this? Like, she's like, can you please shut up? Can you please shut up? Because he's like, please don't make it sound like you have booty calls. You know, it was just so funny. He's like, let's be honest. I've had a couple champagnes in the back.
Come on.
Listen, Lauren was getting her, you know, whistle wet. No big deal. And having a little bit of fun, you know, and then, you know, big deal. We've all done it. Like, I don't want, you know what I mean? You know, it just was really funny for him to kind of like say that.
And
then
she's
kind of
smacking
like,
him under the table a little bit. No, I loved that he said that though, because it was just kind of like, can we all...
It's like you have to be celibate and sad to go on the show. it's
like,
kind of what basically
like,
Dave was saying.
A full round table agreement that you can hook up with someone and the next day be ready to meet the love of your life. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, I think it comes more into Dave was like sad and just kind of out of options in his mind. That's why he joined the show. And he felt like everyone needs to be on the same. He basically was like, in order to go on the show, it has to be your last hope.
But trust and believe, I also don't believe that Dave didn't hook up with someone days before.
I'm just saying that's
like,
the way
you know
he
how
presented
when they asked, like, well, when was the last time you had sex? And he was like, a while. I'm like,
before I was born.
From what we've learned of Dave and his sex questionnaire, in Honduras, I'm sure for Dave, 48 hours is a long time. So he's like, it's been ages since I had sex before I went on Love is Blind. Right. And you're like, okay,
so
Dave.
It's a little bit like, you know, he kind of had a narrative, at least for himself, that he had written.
Yeah.
And he's basically like, the woman needs to be the exact same as me on the last leg. And it's just like,
Or
you know,
no, I don't even think that. I think it's the woman needs to be like preparing heart, body, mind, and soul for me for years and years and years. I can do whatever I want. And when I'm ready, she better have been in preparation mode for however long, exactly as how I see fit. You know,
this is too much for them. Too much for him. He can't get past it.
And, you know, because he even brings up in the conversation, he's like, you know, for me, it was like your dad. The fact that your dad is questioning if I'm ready. And I'm like, yeah, maybe her dad has a good intuition. But
she rebuts immediately and it's just like, well, your sister won't even meet me. And he's like, well, it's true.
And then he was like, the way that your like family was talking shit about how, you know, my family's like, but your dad, of course, we have to meet him on his terms. And she's like,
your sister won't even meet me.
He didn't want to be on camera.
Right.
Your family and friends won't meet me. How is this the same? Like, how is that the same?
So weird. But that, again, is just childish. He's not seeing all sides. He's just like, I don't like this.
And she's like, I don't even know how you feel about me at this point. And did love the moment, jumping to the reunion, where Vanessa ended up asking Dave, where she was like, were you questioning that you couldn't handle what was going on with Lauren, or did it actually, like, were you maybe not that into her?
Sure.
I love that she said that, because like, we're all back here thinking it.
It's like the Molly situation later. It's like, Molly's like, do you like, if you really wanted this, you really weren't capable of making this happen.
Right.
You know
Vanessa
what I mean?
brought up the idea of like, was this an easy way out for you?
Of course, which
I'm
is
like, yeah.
It's like just like Joey. It's like this, like we pick these random fake excuses to be like the reason.
Dave wanted to get on the show so that he could get Instagram followers, so that he could get more DM slides and more dates. Like, let's be real.
And he
here.
happened to fall in love. I think he did fall in love with her.
Do you think really?
I think he did.
So?
I think he did really, but I honestly think he's just. Lauren said it best. I'm light years ahead of you in emotional maturity.
Yeah.
So I think he's just not used to like dealing with like someone who's just like got their shit together.
Yeah.
And he's just used to being like, I get to do whatever I want. And then they just beg for me to come back. And this is crazy with it. Like I'm having to have an actual conversation with you. You know what I mean? Like I do think he liked her a lot. Maybe he didn't love, like whatever, but I think he liked her a lot.
Yeah.
But he was just like, whoa, she's like making me kind of man up and I don't even know how to handle this.
Yeah. Well, speaking of him hoping that someone comes begging back to them, let's talk about when they had the group hang.
Yeah.
So they end up breaking up. Okay.
Yeah.
He ends it. They break up the next day.
Yeah, that's what's brutal. It's like
so
the next
brutal.
night they're in a group hang.
To have to see the person that you just broke up with the next day
Hours
is
ago.
wild. So then they end up having the group hang. Wanted to make a little caveat moment and say, did you notice that when Lauren showed up, Ben right away like ran up to her. He's like, sweetie, you didn't come with Dave?
Right.
And Sarah was like, Ben, too soon. I'm like, that was a window into who Ben is, by the way.
Yeah, because it was like a joke, I guess.
He was joking.
And it was like, dude, they broke up.
It was
8 hours
so
ago.
rude.
It was really
for
weird
him to just go and be like, didn't come with Dave. I'm like, that was a window into like true
douchebag
Ben,
vibes. Yeah.
true Ben, who covers up who real Ben
Right,
is to
totally.
like puts on a mask of like, I'm the perfect guy. And I never,
100%.
true Ben.
Yeah, I agreed.
Just my personal opinion. So before Dave shows up, Molly and Lauren have a sit down, and shout out to Molly, who is a girl's girl.
Big time.
Molly, please be my friend. Like, that's a friend you want.
Yeah.
She sits down with Lauren and she's just like, just showering her with love, affirmations, checking in on her. And it was just like, it was such a girl moment. And we find out though that she's like, by the way, I just kind of wanted to let you know that I know you heard about that hang at the basement bar when Dave, turned his phone off and texted you at 3 a.m. That he was going to be staying at his place. Well, apparently I didn't see it, but there was a girl there that was all over him. And I was like, I knew it.
Oh, yeah.
I knew it. We were talking about how we're like, I'm sorry, but then I'm going to be staying at my house at 4 a.m. Turn the phone off.
Classic.
Convince me something didn't happen.
Classic.
Convince me something didn't happen, okay? Or at least the desire for something to happen and play with it as long as possible. Come on.
Well, I mean, we talked about this before, but it's like going out and partying when you're in the middle of
this.
of a bunch of problems with this person that you're in love with freshly.
Yeah.
And you're on the brink of breakup. And you're just like, no, I'm going to go get wasted and have my phone turn off. And, it's just like, that's a window right there.
Mm-hmm. But Molly was so awesome because she was like, I wanted to tell you, but then I also felt like if I did, is that going to seem like, it's because I had been talking to Dave.
I'm talking shit.
She's
So
like,
that I put a wedge.
I wanted to be respectful, and what a queen. What a queen.
Love how she roasted his like Instagram too. I haven't seen Instagram.
Like,
she's like, have you seen the selfies? Like after she found out they had actually broken up, she then did like the roast thing where it's like, I'm glad you're not with him. He's an idiot. Also, the second I saw his Instagram, I got the biggest ick in the world. All those selfies. It was so funny.
And we found out that apparently one of Dave's friends had told Dave beforehand that there was going to be a woman on Love is Blind who has a boyfriend. In that moment, we found that out, which is like, so the beginning, this guy that Lauren was hooking up with is devious.
Dude, he's toxic.
From day one, he's like getting in these guys' ears, but there's going to be a woman on the show, and like her and I are together, and she's going on, and we're still dating.
Somehow get on the reunion or something, or show up to the group.
Well, we find that out later. But then Dave shows up. And Dave and Molly have a sit down. And again, an absolute queen. She does not let him get away with absolutely anything. He's like, normally I'm the one who fucks up. And she's like, are you saying that she fucked up? And she was just calling him out. She was like, Lauren is an incredible woman. She's a catch. The fact that you have not introduced her, the fact that you wouldn't stand up to your friends and family if you actually cared about her and let this end this way, like, how dare you? Like, you are losing an incredible woman. And I just wanted to just stand up and applaud.
And she was that way all the way through the reunion too. just super supportive, super there for Lauren. And I was almost embarrassed that she had liked.
Oh, for
Dave.
sure.
You know what I mean? It was just like, oh my God.
I have some serious regrets. So after this conversation with Molly, Dave's a little bit in the dumps and he's like, I gotta talk to Lauren.
Right.
And we also then hear, and I cannot believe the stuff that this man says actually blows my mind. So earlier, right after he broke up with her, he admits in the ITMs, he said, I know that this is my ego getting in the way.
Yes.
I know that what she did is normal, but my ego and pride are so affected by this that I can't let it go. He's an interesting character because it's like he fully is acknowledging that it's his pride and ego and he knows it, and yet he still cannot get past it.
It's a good, interesting character is a really good way to put it, because even in the reunion, it's like he does this kind of thing where he admits all of it, but then changes nothing. So it's like, you know what I'm saying? At least Ben is just consistent in his manipulation, where you're got it. He's fake, you know what I mean? He's a liar.
Right.
You can't trust him. He's always smiling, but it's if the manipulation is consistent. Dave's will just say all this stuff, and then the next debate he'll be like, you are amazing. You're my, he was saying this when he was talking to her at the bar. He was drunk, by the way, too. He was slurring his speech.
Yeah, very drunk.
But he's like, you're my priority. And I realized that my ego gets in the way, and this, that, and the other thing. And then she's just like, yeah, but you didn't change anything, and we're
he's like,
still
and
here.
I still won't introduce you to my sister.
And he's like, and then he kind of blames us. So he went from my family's the most important thing to me, and I can trust them, to then they got issues.
Yeah.
They won't meet you. I try to explain to them, kind of thing. It's weird how he does this thing where it's he's telling you everything that you should want to hear.
Yeah.
But it's moments after he just did the opposite. So it's this very confusing energy. He's just, what was he saying? He was saying yeah, you're my priority. Well, he's saying this is real between us.
But when he said
8 minutes after he already broke up with her, it's super.
Well, he said you've always been my priority.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's an insane thing to say to someone who you look in her eyes and say, I could get them to meet you, but I'm not going to do it.
And this is where I really feel for him. It's a classic failure to launch energy, because he was talking about my dad doesn't tell me what to do, and my mom doesn't, my sister doesn't, but then they do. So he's very childlike in his maneuvers, where it's I think he really did like Lauren. I think that he is someone who still is so reliant on everyone else's opinions of him, and he's so insecure that head and heart can't talk.
Yeah.
He's like, my sister's opinion means so much to me, and it should, right? Because she's told me it should. And then, so it's he's just really childlike in the way that he kind of maneuvers.
He's got a lot of growing up to do.
And that was really Lauren's point.
Yeah.
Lauren, I think at one point even said, you're not a bad guy.
Yeah, people are calling him a narcissist,
Yeah,
a
she's
manipulator.
I don't think
at least from her perspective, she said that he's not that way. But
and I just thought it was very fair for her to not just not fair, but it was really gracious for her, let me use that word, to not just be yeah, you're a piece of shit, but to be I know I do see in you, there's good. And there's something we could work on here, but you're just way behind, and you have a lot of work to do.
He did say something though that blew my mind in an ITM at the bar, which I would like to discuss. But first we need to take another quick pause, because when he said this, I went into a fit of laughter.
Oh yeah.
A fit of laughter. But first, family, we all know that Vanessa Lachey loves asking about the Love is Blind babies. Okay, we all know this. Well, for those Love is Blind couples who have had children, I'll say this. One day, you all be faced with the phone conversation. Evan and I were stressing out about this because on the one hand, we want our child to be able to have a way to contact us when she's at school or at theater rehearsal. But on the other hand, personally for us, we weren't comfortable with the idea of her having a phone because the risk of what she could get unfiltered access to, internet, social media, etc. So we didn't know what to do until we discovered Gab. Oh my gosh, Gab has just been a deep breath. Gab is the leader in safe phones and watches for kids, teens, and tweens with no social media apps, no internet browser, and GPS tracking. Gab devices are built specifically to keep kids and teens safely connected. I cannot tell you how grateful we are for Gab, okay?
It's actually amazing.
Yes.
Kids get unlimited talk and text with Gab Messenger, the first messaging and video calling app designed with kids' safety as the top priority. Gab's exclusive app has a parent companion app for easy controls, and it doesn't just keep parents informed. Gab Messenger blocks high-risk messages and content from ever reaching your child's phone in the first place. In fact, Gab's phones and watches are built with smart filtration that proactively blocks harmful content before ever reaching your child.
Like I said, I mean, just an absolute deep breath. And I love how Gab has made it so you can like just completely personalize your experience with what your family is comfortable with. For us, we have it set up so Ember can call and text me, Evan, and a few family members. That is it. But again, you can set it up to be totally personalized to your family's comfortability. And by the way, Gab phones have all the tech features kids actually want to, like the Gab Music app, which lets kids stream clean music, and for older kids, there's the Gab Phone 4 Pro with hundreds of screened third-party apps that can only be installed when parents say so. I just cannot recommend Gab enough. It's the most responsible way that I've found for parents and kids to embrace technology together. Protecting your kids has never been easier. For the best deals, sign up to Gab today. No contract required at gab.com/momdad. That's Gab, GABB.com/momdad. Gab.com/momdad. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, so on to what Dave said before he got together with Lauren at the bar. He in an ITM, before he approached Lauren, was like, yeah, it's tough because, you know, it's like I see her and, you know, I care about her, but then we ended it and da-da-da-da-da, and I really suck at not wanting what I can't have. The fact that
I love that he just says
that is wild behavior.
But that's the like
unhinged behavior.
But that's
to be
the
like,
thing about
yeah,
Dave, though.
yeah.
That's that childlike energy about him.
Right?
Ben would never.
He would never.
Ben's smart enough.
His image is too important.
But Ben's
to him.
smart enough to be like political about it and never admit his actual feelings and play like the manipulative role. Like Dave has these moments where you're like, oh, are you 15? You know what I mean? Because that's like crazy to say. Like you just exposed
like, I don't
your
know,
whole shit.
Like I broke up with her, but now that I see her and like she doesn't want me anymore, like I want her real bad.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go talk to her. So when he approached her, it was just ridiculous.
Yeah.
He was essentially being like, I wanted to call you and text you and check in on you. She's like, well, you didn't. And he's like, well, you didn't either. And she's like, you broke up with me.
You didn't either is a great comeback. I know you are, but what am I? I mean, literally. It was, it's so bizarre. And you know, that's the thing too about this reunion across the whole thing is like, it's been a year. So it really gives no excuse to like, oh, the reunion was a week after.
Yeah.
And like, we haven't had to, it's like a year. So anything you wanted, could have, should have done, you've had plenty of time to do so.
Yes.
So the excuse of like, well, you know, there is no excuse.
There is no excuse.
You could have been the worst person on the show and then spent a year making up for it and been like, I fucked up big time with all these guys and been like, I wanted to right my wrongs. And they had plenty of time to do
Plenty of time. And they did quite the opposite, most of them. Yeah. But he wraps it up with Lauren. It's basically like, this man is clearly just wanting to like hook up again.
Yeah, he's like, you're hot. And
you're
I just
hot,
am like, this is a bummer.
And like, I'll never introduce you to my family, but like, you know, maybe you and I can like, you know, your friends with benefits situation, can like you and I have that now?
Yeah.
Like, are you down to like do that
he's
with
like,
me?
We only had sex once and that's just a bummer to me. That's kind of his energy.
So when they went to the reunion, which I was absolutely cracking up when Nick right away goes, so Dave, what's wrong with you? Good move, Nick. Funny. Very funny. But we find out a few things. Number one, surprise, surprise, Dave's found out that the hookup buddy from the past was like trying to get famous, making up all sorts of lies. I mean, just like how Lauren and her friends had said from the very beginning, he's not a good guy. He just wants to get famous. And Dave's like, turns out it was all fabricated.
Yeah. Oh, shocking. She's like, yeah, I was telling you that the whole time. Yeah. And
he's like, my friends are never wrong. It's crazy. This guy is like a con artist. He manipulated all of us.
Ember was watching, like when we were watching the show, and then Ember like walked in a little bit and was like watching a little bit. And, and it's so funny because Ember's just like this fun kid, right? And sometimes you're like, what is she thinking about? And you're like, oh, she's operating on a deeper level than you even expect.
Oh, she walks people in,
she's watching it for 5 minutes, and then she looks it up and she goes, believe girls, and then walks out. It's so cute. She's just like, that's what they said. Believe girls. Walks out anyway. And you're just like, she nailed it. It was like what Molly said too. It was like what Molly said when they were at the bar. She goes, you should have defended her, stuck up for her, and believed her. And you did none of those things. And she goes like, be a man.
Yeah.
And it was like, shoot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, step up.
Absolutely.
And that's what he wasn't doing.
And, basically their reunion moment, there wasn't like lots of arguing or anything. Lauren was just like, yeah, you were way too immature for me. And I told you the whole time, surprise, surprise. Oh, and by the way,
I did like how he goes, I can accept that. When she's like, I'm way more advanced. He goes, I can accept that.
Understood. And then we find out too, so we had heard during their breakup that she wrote his sister a letter to let her know that I'm so sorry for what's going on. Which, by the way, it's like they're acting like this woman kidnapped one of their family members. It's like, I'm so sorry that I had sex with someone before I even knew your brother existed.
And I'm sorry I have to like fight your sister to like win over the approval.
So she writes his sister this long letter and gives it to Dave. Dave doesn't give it to his sister.
I think he gave it to her like after they broke up or something.
It sounded like that. And that's kind of what we found out at the reunion.
Like, not when it mattered.
Not when it mattered. It was after you guys were all done. And then they're like, well, what did your sister think about it? And he's like, well, she didn't really have much to say. It's like, I'm sure she didn't have much to say. But then he has a moment where Vanessa was like, I'm like, oh God, Vanessa. She's like, do you want to get her back? Do you think she's the one that got away? And Dave's like, yeah, I think she is the one that got away. She's like, well, tell her. Look in her eyes right now and tell her how much you love her. Let's have a moment. And he's like, I don't know if this is a good time to do that. And Lauren's like, it's been a year. I'm not interested.
She's like, I don't believe that. It's been a year. You could have hit me up any time. Yeah.
I'm good.
Thank God, Lauren. Listen,
I know.
Lauren, you got bewitched or something to where you thought this guy was this. We all have our bad moments where we're not seeing clearly. I'm very happy for you that this didn't play out well.
I'm glad that Molly and Lauren got off scot-free in this situation. Okay, let's move on.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about Ben and Sarah.
Yeah, this was one of my favorites.
AKA Mr. Amnesia. He just has this chronic
he's like a politician.
case. He is like a politician.
He's a good-looking guy. He's very charming. The smile, $1 million smile. He knows it. And that's the politician side about him. Is he does the thing. It's like the lawyer in the ear. Say nothing.
Say nothing.
Deny
it all. Yeah.
You forget. Yeah. They can't get you if you say you forget. So it's like he's the king of amnesia only when it matters. It is funny to say I forgot. Like to say I forgot about the girl online who's accusing him of all this stuff. And then the only other time he says I forgot is when he's like, yeah, I don't remember what my church believes in, the thing that matters to you most.
And the thing that the fact that Nick even brought it up at the reunion, and he's like, so did you seriously forget what your church's stance on queer people is? Like what their stance is? And he's like, yeah, genuinely forgot.
Yeah.
You're like, Ben.
Yeah. He's like, no. See, he was worse than that. He goes, well, maybe I didn't go to church that Sunday. Or maybe he goes, maybe I didn't go to church that Sunday. Or maybe if I did, I wasn't really paying attention because that message didn't really pertain to me or anyone I know. And I go, what about the fake friend who's gay?
I thought the same thing. I'm like, oh.
You mean that friend that you flew in from Central Casting to give you like gay credibility?
Yep. You're like, that was the reveal that woman is not his friend, because he's like, yeah, I don't know anybody. And by the way, he had said in the pods that he has lots of gay friends. So the message pertains
to no one he knows, even though he has all these gay friends. I mean, the guy is like, send
him straight to Washington, D.C.
He's the guy that's, I mean, I don't mean to be like dramatic, but he is like scary in that way where it's like, he really presented harmless.
I agree.
Like really presented harmless. And you know what kind of sealed the deal of the scariness to me about him and like the trustworthy of like, I get how women get like, you can't trust these guys. 'Cause it's like at the end of their segment, after everything, he's smiling and clapping. After he just got made to look like a liar and a manipulator, he's like, like when they're like, "Oh, give it up for the couple," and he's like, "Yeah." And Lauren's sitting there like, or not Lauren, but
Sarah.
Sarah's sitting there like sad.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, guys, good to be here. It's like a weird reaction when you're like, you know what I mean?
Well, even at the wedding, which we'll talk about, I was like, no emotion.
And almost like happy for her and him that they're like going to just be friends. And it was really weird.
We'll talk
I think
about
it was
the wedding.
I'm just happy I'm not the bad guy.
Yes,
I think
because
that's
he
what it
thought
was.
that she
cut it off and he's like,
assumed
thank God.
that she was gonna be the bad guy. And again, like all of these men, I think he just wanted to get famous.
Yeah.
So the first scene we see with them is they go to church together. So he takes her to the church, and Sarah looks miserable.
Well, you could just tell her she's trying so hard.
She's trying so hard.
She's just sitting there listening, going like, oh my God.
But she just even, we find out, of course, that she listened to more sermons.
Yeah.
But she's sitting there as the pastor's kind of like...
Worst case scenario for him.
Pastor's kind of like, well, relationships, like part of my marriage contract is to have to always set up these chairs, and my wife dips out and listen, I don't know about all of you, and you might just be dating boyfriends and girlfriends, but eventually, trust me, you find out about people. And it's just kind of that like, is
just
that like...
You know how wives are.
It's just
Bunch of good for nothings.
It was a very triggering for me, that undertone of like...
The undertone of like, at least my wife can cook. Energy.
This undertone going on and being like, like in a relationship, you always end up finding out that they're the worst. But the most important thing is making sure that the person you're with knows Jesus Christ.
Right.
And they kept hitting that. It was literally like they told the pastor what to talk about, because he kept being like, you just so long as the person you're with knows Jesus Christ. And here Sarah is sitting next to Ben and is looking absolutely
and Ben
lame
had
as a
painted
Rob.
his church too as kind of this like, I don't know what they mean. They're just chill and they accept everyone. It's cool. And then I love how there's like the first sermon they get there, like all that matters is that you confess your sins and follow Jesus Christ. And he's the only God. And it's like, got it. Okay, this is not a chill church.
And later too, that Sarah's like, there was not, conversation, diversity, all these things that I thought were going to be present in your church. Like you made it sound, essentially. Before the glamping conversation, I do want to make note, we see her having her wedding dress fitting. They do the tux fitting, the wedding dress fitting, and her sister and her sister's partner are incredible people. We had the conversation last recap about just how heartbroken we were for them when they were having this socially liberal, fiscally conservative conversation, and her sister and partner are like, you do know that this affects us,
right,
correct?
Of course.
But the fact that her sister is showing up for her regardless of this Ben situation, regardless of knowing like, hey, my sister had these beliefs and now I'm like watching her with this guy and it seems like she's shifting for this guy, walking into territory that's unsafe for me and my partner, and yet I am showing up and loving on her.
And being sweet and not being like, not like in her ear being like, are you sure this is a night, don't do that. You
just
know what I mean?
Literally
just
being like, I trust you and I want you to not feel pressure to do anything. Like giving her like, the little hints and pushes, but regardless being like, it doesn't matter. I love you. I'm showing up for you. And I'm like, what an incredible
Very
person.
Selfless.
What an incredible person. Okay. So then Sarah and Ben have their glamping situation. And that's when she was like, so I listened to a sermon today from your
Real
church.
quick before she does, I love how she goes, I know you don't like camping. And he goes, yeah, I don't, but this is okay. While a private chef is delivering their food.
I know, it's like, seems rough.
Yeah. It was just funny how he doesn't like camping. You know what I mean? It just fit perfectly.
It's like,
he's like, no, this doesn't
fit my,
I don't get in
this
dirty.
doesn't fit my politician image. But she's like, hey, I listened to a sermon today from your church about sexual identity.
Yeah.
And she's like, they say that they welcome and love you if you're part of the LGBTQ community, but still have traditional views. Now, here's the deal, family.
Hate the sinner, not the sin, not the sinner.
And that's
energy.
the thing. And like we always say, it's like, listen, there are churches out there that are absolutely affirming, but from the background that we come, this conversation so very triggering, because there are churches out there that do this, that paint this energy that ends up being very wolf in sheep's clothing, where it's like, you're welcome here, and we'll take your donations to the church and your offering and the money, but just so you know, we still are going to try to save you from the sin of your lifestyle, but we love you regardless.
100%.
And then that's the conversation that she brought up too, where the pastor had mentioned something about if your kid is trans, and I forget exactly what the pastor then said, like, well, desires are different than action.
Yes.
Love doesn't equal affirmation.
Exactly.
And it's like, ding, 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 ding. This is, Ben is coming from a community that's saying, like, you're welcome to sit here, but just so you know, you're in sin, but we'll love you regardless.
It's watering down the message to be to come across more accepting and friendly than you are.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a bait and switch tactic.
Mm-hmm. And what Ben says,
all time moment.
I almost had a conniption when Ben goes, well, I mean, I don't know everything. It's not like I can just like Google what the church thinks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, sir, if you are investing half of your life into a place and group of people, and you put your money into it and your time and your heart and your prayers, and you say, I can't Google what they believe, you better check out what they believe. It was reminding me, there's a lot of churches in Los Angeles that, they won't answer those questions. Right. They'll say, everyone's welcome.
There's more important things to talk about is what they'll say too.
Yes, and everyone's welcome. And then when you actually pinpoint and say, no, what do you really believe? They try to dodge the question.
It's as traditional as your grandma's church.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
it's just
Yep.
It's just with hot people saying it with music that's really nice. Like that's all it is.
And then she's like, well, what do you think about this stance? Do you like what they think about, what they talk about, what their beliefs are at this church? Like, how do you feel about this conversation about sexual identity? And he's like, I don't remember. I don't remember. I don't know what their stance is.
Another amnesia move. But to me, what was the most incredible was his follow-up, where he just goes, to be honest, I've had a long day at work.
Oh my God.
I'm tired. And we keep talking about this. And it's like, what the fuck? Like his response was just like, are we really talking about this again?
He was so annoyed.
He was just like, are we seriously talking about this again?
He has the audacity to be annoyed during this conversation, fake amnesia, and then fart on her in the bedroom.
Dude, no. It's worse than that. So he does the whole like, are we really talking about this thing? And then she's like, well, I don't, she's trying to convince herself like, maybe we're okay. Then they move to the bedroom. Okay. And he's trying to make up for lost vibes. He's trying to bring the vibes back.
I love you. I've never been with anyone like you.
He's trying to hook up with her. He's trying to have sex.
Correct.
So he's doing the thing. How do I make this up? Like, I kind of pushed her away with the whole, I had a busy day at work. Mm-hmm. Isn't it crazy how work's busiest when you're, complaining about all this stuff, basically is what he said. But then he's in bed with her and he's confessing like his love for her. He's like, you're amazing. You're this. And he farts while he's telling her how much he loves her, which is one of the all-time craziest moves. Wait till you're done, at least, or walk outside. But to rip a fart while they're talking, and you know what was epic? He smells it first. Did you notice that? He's like, and you are just the center of my being. And then she goes, did you just fart? And he goes, yep. And then she goes, oh my God. And he goes, I feel insecure now. And then she has to reassure him. Like it was talk about don't give a fuck. To fart in someone's face while you're confessing your love, while you're trying to get laid is one of the all-time crazy.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, will you love me when I'm old? And I felt like it was just so annoying.
Gosh. I simply cannot with him. Okay, then we have their wedding day.
Yeah,
which is very interesting. So let's talk about that, but we got to take another quick pause first. Family, so Mother's Day is coming up. Hint, hint. Mother's Day. And, I want to treat my mom. I got to treat Sylvia, right? But to be honest, I never know what to get her, especially when she hits me with the classic, don't get me anything. But I still want to give her something that feels special. Well, let me tell you, Quince totally solved it for me. You all know I am absolutely obsessed with Quince. Everything is high quality, feels super thoughtful, and it's actually affordable. Now I don't overthink it. I just go straight to Quince. I love everything from Quince, like their cashmere sweaters from $50, their 14 karat gold jewelry, Italian bags, fragrances, and more. The variety is unreal. You just have to check out their website. But for my mom, Mom, if you're listening, please close your ears. For my mom, I got her a pair of these gorgeous 14 karat gold classic hoops. They are so elegant and delicate, and the price was fantastic.
Yes, the best part, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. It's true. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, premium fabrics, and finishes. I actually just treated myself to one of Quince's 100% European linen relaxed long sleeve shirts, and it's my new date night go-to.
Oh, yeah. Looks very good on you.
Looks
very good. I'm telling you, family, you just have to go on their website. The affordable luxury options are endless. And I've said this before, but I used to be in wardrobe styling. And if I still was, Quince would no question be my go-to for purchasing classic fits for clients. Don't get me started on the comfort stretch long trench coat that I just got myself for Mother's Day from Quince. It is hot, 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 hot. I love it so much. Thoughtful, timeless, totally her. Shop Mother's Day at Quince. Go to quince.com/momdad for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/momdad to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/momdad. Okay, so now we have Ben and Sarah's wedding day, and two big things that I noted were happening on Ben and Sarah's wedding day. Number one, Sarah was beginning to spiral big time. Okay, we were watching her be so very nervous and tense up. We were seeing her sister and her partner kind of whispering and saying like, she's feeling the pressure like she has to. Like her sister knows Sarah and she's sensing this feeling of like, she now feels like she's gone this far.
Yes.
And now she has to do it. Like, yeah, no doubt she's attracted to Ben. She's into Ben, but she knows in the back of her head, this is not what she's looking for. In fact, Sarah had said to Ben during the glamping, she's like, I just always imagined that my partner and I would line up one day and really agree on most things, but I guess that's not going to happen. So she's in that phase of feeling pressured. And she also had a moment where she talks about how like nervous she's feeling and some of the questions. And then she tells her family, like, I don't mean to sound like I'm complaining. And Kelsey,
that was interesting.
Her sister's partner was like, you need to not be perfect and just be you. And it kind of hit me that I'm like, I think Sarah maybe has, as a people pleaser over here, maybe those people pleasing tendencies to be like, if I don't do this, I'm going to let everybody down.
Yeah.
And
I'll be a failure.
I'll be a failure. I brought them through this whole journey and now I dragged them here today and then I'm going to walk out and then I'm gonna have to eat crow a little bit on being with this guy. And so I think she knew in her heart the whole time that wedding day, it was like this, and she's been questioning because there's so many things about Ben that she's like question mark. So that's happening on Sarah's side.
Yeah.
And then on Ben's side, what we're seeing is the men are toasting to honoring God. They are praying over him constantly. They are talking about how him and Sarah will honor the Lord together. His mom and his grandma are like, just make sure that your union is under God. And all I was thinking is I was like, I don't think Sarah knows how big religion is to Ben. Like, obviously he's communicated it a lot, but I feel like the way in which it was painted is it was like, I'm a Christian and God's important to me, but like it was everything on his wedding day.
Yeah.
Like this is like, if
He was playing it down big time leading up to all this.
If you enter into his community, the way his boys were talking and his family, it's like, no. This is like, they're praying that you, Sarah, will honor God, but you do not believe in God. So how comfortable are you being in a marriage when this is someone's like lifeblood?
And because that'll percolate into how you raise kids, how you live life. I mean, if you are that way, it's going to massively be a part of your life.
Yeah. When it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, and someone says I'm a Christian, and someone says I'm not a Christian, and someone's like, yeah, I go to church and whatever. But this Ben is like, it's everything. It's.
I was really curious about the wedding because when she calls it off, right, and he, she kind of just goes, hey, I'm not ready for this. I realized we're just not linked. We're not aligned in a lot of these things. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, his real lack of emotion, semi-relief.
Yeah. He was like, it's all good.
Yeah, it was literally like, we're not going to go get, chicken strips.
He's like, thank you so much for letting me know.
It was literally just kind of like, his reaction was so benign.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, we're not going to go to this restaurant, not this restaurant. I was like, oh, that I wonder... would he have said yes to be the good guy and then later broken up?
I think so.
Or would he have broken up on the spot?
I think he would have said yes.
Yeah,
I think he would have taken it all the way through.
I do think too. I think he was much more concerned about his image than he was about her. So I think when she broke it off, he thought, now I'm the victim. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Like I can kind of walk out of here to be gracious.
I think that's why he seemed so relieved.
You know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Is I just wanted to bring this up so I don't forget it.
Yeah.
Was on multiple of these weddings, you could tell the difference between people who were expecting it to work / wanting it to work.
Sure.
Versus stoked when it didn't.
Yeah, totally.
Did you notice that? Like, dude.
Yeah, when Joey high-fived Monica in the air.
No, I don't even mean between them.
Yeah.
Families.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, when she broke up with him, people were clapping.
Everyone's like,
dude, people were cheering like they got married. To where I had to rewind and be like, did they recant on it and do it again?
Yeah.
Literally, she's like, yeah, it's not right for him. And he goes, it's okay. And everybody goes, woo! Everybody's like, thank God. Like, it was just funny to see, like, we were kind of shown that maybe they were closer to the whatever, and then all of a sudden all the families are cheering like, thank God this didn't work out. The Christians are like, thank God he didn't marry the non-Christian, and the non-Christians are like, thank God she didn't marry the Christian. It was just interesting to watch some of those reactions.
Well,
I was like, oh wow.
I knew that she was gonna say no. I thought she was actually gonna say yes.
I thought she was gonna say yes.
And I was like, oh girl. But then the second that she got up on that platform and the officiant was like, let's bow our heads and pray. I don't know if you noticed. She did not close her eyes nor bow her head, and she looked annoyed.
Yeah.
And I think it was a little bit like, okay, we're two very different people, and probably in her wedding,
this was not what she wanted.
This isn't what she wanted.
Another thing she gave up, which was allow her to have some, super religious ceremony.
Right. Which, it wasn't like a super religious, but it was I just noted that she did not close her eyes nor bow her head, and I was like, it's over.
It's over.
They were testing her. The Love is Blind producers were like, put in an officiate who's going to have them pray, because nobody else did that during their ceremony that we saw. Nobody bowed their heads in prayer, and it was like Sarah.
But I for sure thought she was more bewitched than she let on.
Yeah.
Like when she was just like not ready, I was like, oh my God, you had me going.
Yeah. She's like, I'm not ready. And, oh, by the way, let's not forget it's tough because with the Ben part, he seemed relieved. But at the same time, after she said, I love you, but I need a partner on the same wavelength, I can't. He's like, well, I want to stay with you and want to keep growing our relationship if you'll let me. And she's like, I guess we'll talk about that later.
Unless you change your entire identity.
But that conversation happening on stage in front of everybody where he's like, maybe we can keep dating. And she's like, yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
See, I think he knew it was over. And I think it was another way to play into like, if I kind of semi-beg, it'll make me look even better.
Yeah, perhaps.
You know what I mean? I do think it was like, oh, I can say anything and really make myself look good.
Yeah. Well, she then, she leaves with her family, and she's like, hey, I just wanted someone more curious who showed more priority. She was like, it wasn't even that he had a different stance in certain things or a nonchalant, quote unquote, attitude. She's like, it's the fact that he made no priority to take action,
he's uninvested
no curiosity.
in these things,
he doesn't care, right? And then when Ben is like hugging everybody after, the part that just absolutely sent me was when his friends come to comfort him and they hold his hands for a second and they go, oh God, what are we doing? And like throw their hands off each other. And he's like, let us pray over you. And I was like, that was interesting. I'm like, you guys can't touch each other for a second?
Dude,
like,
I'm not gay, I promise.
No, literally. It's like, you guys, these are your friends. Like he's just went through a breakup. Like hold hands.
That's a wild response.
oh, God.
I touched you. I'm a dude. Ew.
Yeah,
that was that energy.
That was that energy. Okay, so then let's talk the reunion because this gets interesting, honey. Okay, so Ben, first of all, says that he confirms with Nick that he actually does not remember his church's stance on, gay marriage, the LGBT community in general. And he's like, I didn't remember because honestly, I didn't need to know. And then Ben kind of does this full speech where he's like, I've really grown this past year. I've realized where I didn't take interest in action and how great my privilege is. And like, let me say this. It's like, we hope to hear that.
Sure.
But when we find out later that he was also getting coaching, we're like, it seems like somebody's saying what they think they should say so they don't get in trouble. I know.
All the guys came on the show
fully rehearsed,
political, and all the women came on honest. That was the difference. All the women called the guys out, and all the guys were just like, fantastic, and we learn lessons, and that is the key to growth as human. You know what I mean? They had their they got together and did like all right, ChatGPT, how do I handle a reunion?
Well, what we end up finding out is they ask about the TikTok situation, and Sarah's like, listen, there were thousands of comments on this, like confirming, and after getting to know Ben more, this TikTok makes sense.
I thought she was going to say the opposite. I thought she was going to say, and getting to know Ben more, the TikTok doesn't represent who he is. I thought she was going to say something like that. But the fact that she goes, no, it's actually, this is exactly who he is.
And now it represents who he is.
Like, oh.
We find out that they lived together for 2 weeks after the wedding. And then they planned that he would, she was moving to Nashville to continue her nursing career over in Nashville, that he was going to fly out a few days later and stay with her for 2 weeks up to a month, maybe go back and forth. Like, this sounds like a relationship. You go from being engaged to like, we're still living together. You're going to come out and live with me part-time. She says she drove to Nashville, didn't hear from him the whole day, but she goes, yeah, he's out partying with friends. By the way, do these guys only party? Why are they always out getting drunk with friends?
Yes.
And she's like, when I got to Nashville, I checked and he had removed me from his close friends. So...
Or find my friends.
Find my friends.
Yeah, so like basically took his location off.
Which is a curiosity because he perhaps didn't want Sarah to ask questions about where he was located.
The
timing is quite interesting.
Very interesting.
And then she said she didn't hear. He then texted her the next day a apology that she said felt so rehearsed, and then she didn't message him back. She didn't hear from him for months, and then all of a sudden, like a few weeks before the reunion is filming. She says he contacts me and says that a past cast member told him to be on good terms with her and that they should rehearse questions for the reunion together. And Evan, when Ben wouldn't say who the cast member was, but like, you'll probably see him on your top 5 moments. And then Vanessa goes, do you know who it was, Sarah? And she just says, Jimmy.
Unbelievable.
Ben,
he's like, I don't want to talk about who.
Ben, what were you thinking? You ask Jimmy? You ask Jimmy.
Well, makes sense, though.
To give you advice on this show. The man who, like, it was just...
iconically shit the bed.
Iconically shit the bed over and over and over again. But now that I think about it, you know what Jimmy did do? At the reunion, him and Chelsea were like, we're good, we love each other. Because he wound her back in to make Chelsea feel like he was going to date her again so that his name could be cleared at the reunion. And that's what he encouraged Ben to do. Slimy behavior to the max. Literally just like, hey, we got to make sure we're good because I don't want to look bad. And then, of course, we see Ben and Ben saying like, you know, you're the one who ghosted me.
Yeah.
And he's going around telling people that she ghosted him. She's like, you took me off Find Your Friends. You were supposed to come and live with me.
Correct.
And I didn't respond to one of your text messages. So you just never text me again and don't show up. And I'm the one to blame, Ben?
Yeah.
I ghosted you?
Yeah. Epic. Yeah. I mean, listen, it was just a classic. It was a classic move. And again, how do you not know you're broken
Because I
up?
thought we were broken.
Yeah, that's also a classic like cheater move too. Is just be like, I thought we were broken up, because it's like if you really want something, it's pretty clear. And he goes, yeah, we talked about me visiting you all week, but then that last conversation on our last date, kind of felt like it was over. It's classic behavior. It's classic like I didn't want to have an awkward conversation with you, so I basically just let it go. And then when you're not around, you can't bust me for anything. Mm-hmm. So I'll let you just be.
You're broken up when you say you're broken up.
Yeah, when you say we're done.
Not when you got a tough, maybe awkward conversation. That doesn't mean that the relationship is over. I could not
and he was smiling
believe
through the whole thing too. So that was also really weird. He wasn't like, he didn't have a face of sorrow or a face of apology or even a face of just, let's say he's not sorry.
Yeah.
A human decency of like caring for her to be like, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings. It was just really like a, great question.
He was practically
the reason
doing
why
finger
I'm going
guns.
to jail. You know what I mean? It was very like, all right, and then at the end he's clapping. It was just a really unempathetic, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And, you could see the difference because she was visibly shook.
Yeah.
And he was visibly couldn't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Ben, what I gathered from Ben at the end of this is it's like, the whole time we were talking, like he's putting on a face of like, being like the perfect guy. And it just got more and more politician-y as each episode progressed. And, I was shocked that she went as long as she did in that relationship and then like last minute decided to like bail out. I was happy for her that she did. Because I don't think that Ben was ever serving the real Ben to her. And I think if they would have gotten married, she would have been in for quite a shock. And I don't think any of us will ever get to know the real Ben. And that's kind of the vibe I get.
Design.
That's by design.
Ben doesn't know the real Ben.
Yeah.
Boom.
Boom. Okay. Let's move on to Monica and Joey.
Yeah.
Monica and Joey. This was an interesting one.
Super interesting.
But before we talk Monica and Joey, let's take one last quick pause. Family, this episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. I do feel as if after watching this season of Love is Blind, talking about therapy is a natural transition. Okay, but let's talk numbers. Traditional in-person therapy can cost anywhere from $100 to $250 per session, which adds up fast, but therapy is so valuable and important. Well, with BetterHelp Online Therapy, you can save an average of up to 50% per session. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, saving you big on cost and on time. And this is huge because therapy should feel accessible, not like a luxury. With online therapy, you get quality care at a price that makes sense and can help you with anything from anxiety to everyday stress. Hear me when I say your mental health is worth it, and now it's within reach.
Yeah, how much therapy has benefited me over the years. Mm-hmm. It really has changed my life. No joke. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally, and it's convenient too. You can join a session with a click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy, busy life. Plus, switch therapists at any time.
I love how convenient BetterHelp makes it to get in that therapy session because taking care of you is so important because you are worthy, right? Therapy has changed my life too. It's helped me so much with learning about creating certain boundaries that I struggled with. It's helped my anxiety. It's helped me uncover the why behind a lot of my people-pleasing tendencies. It's helped me process the why behind my jealous tendencies. I mean, so much. I am so grateful that I started therapy years ago, and your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/momdad to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/momdad, betterhelp.com/momdad. All right, so on to Monica and Joey. So during their final date, we are essentially finding out that these two have not said I love you to each other, which is, imagine getting married and never having said I love you. Like you're walking down the aisle and you've never directly told the person I love you. Joey says in this like final date, he says, I have a lot of love for you. Like that's as close as it gets, is I have a lot of love for you.
That's like what you say to your buddy. You know what I
you're
mean?
like, I got a lot of love for you.
I got a lot of love for you, man.
Yeah. And Monica says that she's been holding back because he hasn't told her that he's 100% in.
Yeah.
We find out during the tux shopping that he tells his friends that he won't know until he's standing at the altar whether he's going to say yes or no.
Classic.
And he's like, I don't know, guys. Like, that's just, you know me, you know who I am. Like, I got to wait until the final moment to like really decide who I am. And he is I know I said this about Dave, but like Joey is truly an interesting character to me.
Big time.
He is fascinating because it's like simultaneously the most laissez-faire, whatever happens, you know, silly, also
crazy,
just like last minute whim, but then also highly analytical and not emotional.
Super, like he's expressive but unemotional.
Yes.
So it's like, because it kind of makes you think he's impulsive.
Yes.
Because he's childish.
Yeah,
like I don't mean in a bad way even. Yeah. I mean more like playfully child, like throwing the ball and being yee and like,
and longboarding into the wedding
jumping
ceremony.
into the water. Yeah, longboarding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Saying stuff like, yeah, it was really nice to get a workout in. It kind of helps me regulate. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like very young energy, but then at the same time can lock into like these super emotionally intelligent and like intelligent, you know, conversations or like talk about stuff. So you're like, oh, remember when you talked about her sister and kind of broke that down? Like he's capable of some really high level stuff. So it kind of throws you off and you're like, oh, you should be farther along or you should be expressing yourself differently.
He's very unemotional, right? So I think what I was kind of getting was with Monica, and I'd feel the same way, is that in the pods, because of Joey's lighthearted playfulness, I would assume that he's probably a very sensitive feeler. Yeah. Like I would imagine that he was a big emotional, big feeler person. And so I'm thinking that she probably got engaged to him thinking he was a big feeler, comes out of the pods and is like, oh, this guy's super non-emotional. And Monica wants somebody who's emotional. She really likes Joey and likes that playful energy to him, but she's like, I thought that he was going to be a feeler. He's not. And in this final date, she's talking about like, hey, the other couples are like super affectionate and, you know, maybe you could like put your hand on my knee sometime. And I know it's not easy for you. And then even during the wedding when she would refer to Joey, to her family, she'd be like, oh God, he's stone cold. He better shed a tear when I hope that he cares. And it's like you saw this window into where Monica was feeling like really insecure about the fact that it's like, man, I thought that he was going to be like really emotionally connected to this process and he's not.
Mm-hmm. Super interesting. And I think that's where she was thrown off in the pods. Was like, if you were talking to someone like that, you're thinking this guy cries at every movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Joey is a guy that's expressive. He's
talking about
emotional.
the sound of music.
He's talking about the sound of music. So you're thinking you're getting this kind of highly emotional person, and then you realize he's like not that way at all, which is very what's the word? Like unsettling in a way where you're like, I don't know what to expect, or I'm expecting something that I keep constantly not getting what I'm expecting.
Yes, it would be hard to, relationally.
It's hard to kind of be like, this guy's so expressive, but unemotional. It's a very tough place to be because then you never know where you sit. Yeah. And you know that it's all about fun, but it's not about emotions. It's an interesting.
Yeah, it's all about fun, but then he gets really serious. Yeah. It would be tough. And I mean, you hear his mom talking about like how relationally it's been hard for him, and it makes sense. But then it's interesting too, because it's like, then you meet Joey's parents at the wedding and it makes sense because his dad's like CEO vibes. Seems like hippie feeler, super emotional, and dad is like CEO,
super well spoken,
president of a company,
together,
super non-emotional, just very much like, well, here are the facts and figures. And so you're like, he's like a complete combination of his mom and dad. But the energy with them going in, you're like, they haven't said I love you. Yeah. He's not.
Even the date was just very friend vibes. And I think, you know, to her point later on when she's like, I should have realized that he just wasn't that into me. Yeah. And that's truly what I think it was. Because he even said later, I never got out of the friend zone with you, kind of. Yeah. And it was interesting because what really threw me off and I knew we were in trouble was that final date.
Big time.
Because they were talking about like, what's your favorite color almost? Totally, yeah. Like he was asking her questions that like we'll talk to Ember about. Yeah. Like what was your favorite thing about today?
Yeah.
Like, that's not what you talk about the day before you're getting married.
Yeah.
They were talking kind of just like, if you could go anywhere in the world for a vacation, where would you go?
Yeah, which is fun question, but maybe not.
That's
maybe
at a
not
bar
the
for the
day,
first when you meet with someone.
the day before you get married.
That's when I'm standing outside of some sort of school event. And I'm just chatting with someone, and they bring up their vacation.
Yeah, where's
and
your favorite place
that's cool.
been?
Yeah, have you ever been somewhere that's your favorite place?
Yeah.
It's very surface level.
It was big friend energy, and I did really feel for her during the reunion when she was like, I felt embarrassed, and I wanted to hop on the screen and hug her and be like, girl, don't feel embarrassed. Like, when you're in that moment too, you're like, oh, we're fun, we've connected, he proposed to me. Like, maybe I'm just trying to learn who this person is.
Yeah, but at the same time, I get it. Like, I would feel the same way. Because it's like, wait, I'm getting ready to get married to this person, and from an outside perspective, when I'm watching the clips, I'm going, we're talking about vacation.
Yeah.
We're talking about the weather.
Yeah.
The day before our wedding. How did I not see this? You know what I mean? So I felt for her.
It was interesting to see Joey on the wedding day. Talk about his group.
Joey time.
How I said it the first episode? I said Joey reminds me of Owen Wilson from You, Me, and Dupree.
Even wore like the shirt.
I stand by this, okay? During this groomsman hang in the back where they're just tossing the football the whole time and being like, that's so Joey, and then they tackle each other and he zips in on a longboard. Such big Owen Wilson from You, Me, and Dupree energy. Like, just like, yeah, man, like, I don't know. I'll see what I feel after I longboard down the aisle of life and get to my potential queen at the end. We'll see if I'm feeling like a forever or not. You know, that was...
It was like, what kind of food should we get? That was literally his like approach to this whole thing. It was interesting. Yeah, it was really weird because it was similar thing with Ben where it was like when she broke it off, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, by the way, on the flip side, so that's what's going on in Joey's dominion during the wedding day. And then on Monica's end, not very warm.
No.
Sister's there. Mm-mm. That's the sister. My goodness. But nobody, I'm just like, somebody tell her how beautiful she looks, please. And just like affirm her and stop having these like tongue-in-cheek comments and and you're watching her Monica seemed on edge, but I couldn't read in that moment if it was more because of her family dynamic or if it was because of potentially marrying Joey Probably and both. Not knowing if Joey actually loves her or not because they hadn't said anything. So then during the ceremony, the vows immediately, I was like, this is bananas. Their vows to each other, he literally just said like, thank you so much for coming on this journey with me. I'm like, you mean your wedding vows? Like, thank you so much. She's like, wouldn't have wanted to do this with anybody else.
Yeah. Except for someone that maybe I love.
I'm like, you mean get married? You wouldn't want to do this? Thank you for coming on this journey with me. It felt like this is a wrap up. There was almost an energy that I know this isn't what happened. At least it didn't seem that way from Monica's end. Like they had talked about it before where they were like, hey, we're not going to do this. Let's just end this, whatever. So she ends up, saying that she can't say I do because she's not quite there yet. She's like, you're amazing. I love you. And he's like, I agree with you. I am also not 100% on this.
Yeah.
They hug it out. He gives a really nice speech. By the way, it was so sweet that they had the chair for his sister. That was really emotional. Yes. He gives a really nice exit speech. Note to Monica's family, nobody walked Monica out.
That was insane.
She leaves her own wedding ceremony after saying no, goes into the car. None of her family follow her out or friends, and she just goes in alone.
It's really weird because
I'm like, you guys.
It was super weird because that the family when they met seemed like the closest, sweetest family ever with the drum circles and everything. But then like the wedding vibe was so different.
Mom seemed great, but I was just like, can someone please follow this poor woman out and check in on her?
Sister's just like, told you. At least I'll be married first now.
It was all the sisters played. She's like, I knew it. But Monica says in the end, she's like, hey, if Joey would have said I'm 100% in, it would have been a lot different.
Yeah.
But we see then Joey in his exit being like, well, I guess it's all over. Because from his perspective, there's no possible concept, which always blows my mind. When it's like when they don't get married, that they're just like, well, I guess we're done forever now. And you're like, what about you?
Because they didn't have like some of these people, like the religious issue. They didn't have the like thing they couldn't get over.
Yeah.
It was strictly just like, felt like a time problem.
Well, he says in his exit speech that he's like, well, we're done.
Yeah.
So we're done. We're not going to be together. Reunion hits. And, you know, Joey's initially saying, hey, couldn't get out of the friend zone. Big factor was her sister because family's everything to me. And her sister she said that she's her best friend and she didn't like me. And Nick was like, hey, maybe the sister saw the lack of commitment on your level. And I'm like,
yeah, it was interesting.
Loved that Nick spoken to that. I'm like, I think sister probably didn't deliver it in a good way, but
it was
that's
also
maybe
just
what sister
wild to
saw.
be like, yeah, instead of admitting like, yeah, we just, I just couldn't get there. He goes like, the major issue is that her sister didn't like me. Like, that's a wild thing to say of the reason why you didn't get married to someone.
Lauren's like, at least you got to meet her sister.
Yeah, seriously. I guess this whole thing should have been called Attack of the Sisters.
Truly. But we get the tea because Monica's like, well, I've been finding out a lot in recent months. She's like, in fact, just a month ago, I found out that after that big inner tubing date that we did with the group, that you slid into another cast member's DMs. Okay. It's like, well, I like to check in on people.
Yeah, I'm a friendly guy.
That's the wildest answer ever. I like to check in on people.
It could work if you were that emotional, impulsive guy.
Yeah.
Who just kind of does shit and then always is like getting in trouble going, I don't know, I didn't mean to.
Maybe it would have worked if he that day would have sent a DM to every single cast member, then perhaps. But we find out that he sent a message to Madison. And what he said to Madison was that he was loving the pink hair, wish they could have talked more. And Madison says that they dated for a little bit in the pause, but it was just definitely a friend vibe to her. This leads into the fact that we find out that Monica, right after they ended the wedding, that Joey and her kept hanging out. Like every day, she was hanging out with his family. Constant. They even got physical. And Joey was just like, I just thought we were chilling. And Monica's like, we just ended an engagement and we're having sex and seeing each other every day. And then Joey says that that Madison came on to him really hard at the bars.
And is like obsessed with him.
And is obsessed with him. And Madison is like, this is absolutely not true. She shaded him so hard. She's like, come on, look at him.
Yeah, it was epic.
So hard. This led into the Madison show,
right,
where all these men basically saw Madison, thinks that they all think she's absolutely stunning, which she is, and Joey is like trying to slide into Madison's DMs, doing the thing to Monica, making her feel insecure by trying to cover his tracks because he's hitting on Madison and being like, she came on to me so hard. By the way, we have affirmation from Molly, who was there, that it was like, that is not true.
0.
And then we find out that Madison and Monica went together to confront Joey, and Joey was like, Monica, I never said that to you. I mean, these men and their lies. These men and their lies.
Basically, Joey, the reality of this whole thing was that Joey wasn't ever that into Monica.
Yeah, I don't think he was into Monica at all.
He saw Madison and thought, I'm going to like plant the seed to where when it doesn't work out with me and her, maybe there's some, because it then blew up in his face. And instead of just accepting it and being honest, again, it's amazing. It'd be interesting to just be honest and just be like, I thought she was really cute. It was stupid. Shouldn't have done it.
I know. Just try being honest.
They can't. They have to just be like, it's crazy. You're crazy. You're making things up.
And it's like my heart breaks for these women like a Monica who are like, is then spending her time after with Joey. They're being physical together. And then he's trying to hit on Madison and then gaslighting her and saying, I never mentioned the Madison thing to you.
And she's like, why would I make that up? That's insane.
And Madison, who, by the way, I know that a lot of people like aren't fans of Madison. Madison's my girl and I fucking stand by Madison because when we saw, and it was just the picture of who Madison is. And Madison got fucking screwed because she's got all these loser guys who are obsessed with her, who are making her life miserable. But we had the beautiful, perfect picture of when they had the meetup at the bar. And Meg and Mason walked in together hand in hand, okay? And then Alex walks in and Lauren's having a conversation with Madison and is like, what went down with everything? And Madison starts to tell Lauren about how Alex was
begging for her
attention, but also how Alex said, oh, Meg slid into my DMs. And Madison says, Meg slid into his DMs, at least Alex says, Meg slid into my DMs before she even knew that Madison and Alex weren't engaged. And what Madison said was not, how dare Meg? Lauren, can you believe Meg coming in here and she ends up being with Mason and she's sliding into Alex's DMs? No, Madison said, I know that Alex was trying to pit me and Meg against each other.
Yeah.
There was no blaming Meg. There was no how dare she. She supported her woman in arms. And she said, Alex is trying to pit us against each other. And that's what you need to know about Madison.
Yeah.
I stand by my girl Madison hard.
Yeah. Even though Meg, in my opinion, was not being cool at all.
No, she was not.
She still didn't rip into her.
Let's talk about, okay, so I know we're doing couple by couple, but let's have a moment here and go into the reunion portion that is focused around Madison and those connected to her.
Yeah.
It's coming off of the Madison and Joey conversation. So in this reunion, Madison's having to have this back and forth with Joey where she's like, Joey, I'm not into you, okay?
Right.
Please stop telling people that I'm into you and that I was all over you at the bars. Well, again, Meg and Mason, earlier we saw them walk into the bar together hand in hand. They ended up connecting after the show. They go on the reunion. They're just friends. They tried dating.
Right, they tried.
Well, I looked up and I found since that they are, I think, back together.
So it's just back and forth,
Yeah, it
So
seems like it's a back
something's
and
going on
forth situation. And by the way, Madison, fully supportive, was like, you know what? I'm happy for them. I think that they're a much better fit together. You know, good for them. She's being kind and generous and not getting into it. And Alex,
arguably the biggest scumbag of them all.
well, I just wanted to note this quickly, and I did not dive into details of this, but when I was looking up current stuff with the cast members, apparently there has been because serious allegations about Alex since, and I'm not going to get into it just because, like I said, I didn't dive in because it was extremely triggering, to be honest, but serious allegations. And he was the guy that you and I were saying, it was through this whole thing, it's ultimate villain, he scares me.
Yeah, because he's he his whole character was I can't even talk about sex, I'm so sheepish. Mm-hmm. And then as it develops, you realize he's manipulating and he's pitting people against each other. He's out here talking crazy shit against Mason, being fuck him,
what a loser,
mocking him and Meg's relationship, doing all this stuff. Then when it flips over, being me and Mason and Meg against Madison. And then it's it's really interesting to watch him kind of be, I'm on team then, but then not thinking he's going to get exposed. He was really trying to have sex with Madison while staying friends with Mason and Meg. And instead of just being an honest guy that's hey, I'd love to figure this out with you and also be friends with them, he had to do this guess what?
Yeah.
They're shitty so that now we can bond. Bond over talking shit on people.
Yes.
And that's what he did to both sides. So then he goes, well, that didn't work with Madison. So now I'm going to go over to Meg and Mason and talk shit on Madison so that they'll be cool with me.
I mean, thinking about Alex's behavior in those pods, is still so upsetting. And the way that he made Madison feel after she was talking with him about Mason, and then he was obsessing over Mason. He's just well, Mason does have a point. And she's how are you not being there for me?
Yeah.
How he made her feel, quote unquote, he was so judgmental of she's talking about her disassociation and making her feel crazy. I mean, I know. But he says, it was surprising to see how different Madison was with me versus Mason. And it was a different person. And then just right out the gate, trying to paint Madison as the villain. And then Mason is yeah, I wish I would have been more cautious with Madison in the pods like Alex was. And there were things that she said to me that made me feel like she was all in on me. So now these two men are trying to make Madison look like this woman who was playing both of them. And now Meg's looping in and connecting with them and be yeah, you were wanting to have all of it. And it's how are we forgetting? First of all, Madison had a great point where she's like, I'm sorry. You're different with different people. Okay. You interact differently with different people. Also, in this experiment, things change fast. Also, by the way, we were all dating a bunch of people. Also, Mason, you committed to me. And then Mason has the audacity to be like, well, I was pressured.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, really, Mason?
Were you 5?
Were you forced to fully commit your love and adoration to Madison?
You felt Madison slipping, and so you bailed on Meg.
And she fucking called him out for that.
And now you're trying to keep Meg on the wire.
Yep.
And so what you have to do is you have to shame and shit on Madison to make... It was really interesting to watch both these guys because it really was... I mean, I hate to say it, but it was like both guys were turned down by Madison. Mm-hmm. One in the pods, one outside of the pods. Mm-hmm. Meg didn't get either until outside of the pods. Mm-hmm. So what you kind of have is this jealous Meg who hates Madison for the fact that the guys like her more sexually or whatever. And these two guys who are embarrassed,
radically insecure
for being turned down.
Yep.
So they have to villainize her. So it's really, you can see how gross the relationship is between Mason, Meg, and Alex. How they have this kind of like, everyone's talking shit on each other. No one trusts each other. They'll never have each other's backs, but they're also kind of like, my enemies are my friend. You know what I mean? They're kind of like, we're in this thing together because it's like everyone else's fault. It was really weird to see because it was like, how could Mason ever claim that like,
and Madison's just sitting there being like, oh, I pressured you. And like you said, she fully then called him out and she's like looking at Meg going like, you and I were talking. And Madison's so awesome too, because she's like, you know what? I'm sorry. I take accountability. Meg, I shouldn't have spoken up for you when I was talking to Mason and Alex. But what we saw, it makes perfect sense to me because her and Meg were having like a back and forth. Meg, we all saw in the pods, every time she'd walk in, she'd announce all of her business to everybody. My
guy's the best.
She'd announce all of her business to everybody. So then her and Madison are having this conversation. Meg wants the information from Madison. Madison gives her the information and then goes and defends her to the men. And then somehow she's becoming the villain. And it's like, yeah, he felt me slipping. That's then he said he committed to me. And she's like, I was already fully in on Alex and I knew you were fully in on Mason, but then he changed his mind because he felt me slipping. And then lest us not forget, Mason committed to me and then he went on a date with you that night and you came in all giggles and rainbows. So how am I the person who's like being non-commit? Like, what is happening? Oh, I was so mad. I was so mad that they were like, you were just like a different person. And then Mason being like, yeah, I just wish I could have gone back and really called out your red flags, Madison. Oh, go fuck yourself.
It was you could tell they had spent so much time talking shit on her together that they had created her as an enemy.
I was so mad. And it's just like watching Madison have all these men be like, she was leading me on. And I'm like, shut up. You mean a woman who's having a conversation with you who also happens to be beautiful? Sounds a lot like every dating app where it's like the second a guy is like, hey girl, and then you shut him down. He's like, go fuck your, I mean, it was so upsetting. And Madison I wanted to like reach into the camera and like sit next to her and be like, I got you, girl. Because she was physically shaking.
Well, she just felt so alone.
Because she was so alone, except for Molly. Thank God she had Molly there. And Lauren was there to support her too and just like say like, yes, I was there and this is not what happened and da-da-da-da-da. But then Madison pulls out the screenshots. She's like, oh, I have screenshots. And you see Alex's face just get white. And it's just screenshots of Alex mocking Mason and Meg. And she was just using it as a point to be like, you don't know Alex. Alex came for me hard after the show. He rejected me and then saw what I looked like and was begging me to stay with him. And I said no. And now he's pissed because I rejected him. And then when people are like, Madison was going around to the bars and saying that Alex, that she rejected Alex and she's a liar. And I'm like, you guys, she was talking about the second time when then Alex met her up at the airport right after and was like, please be with me. And then she rejected him. Oh man. Oh, I was hot. Not happy about it.
Not at all.
Madison, you're my girl. All these other people suck.
They suck.
And I don't know if that's a popular or unpopular opinion because I feel
Really?
a lot of people didn't like Madison, and I love Madison.
Maybe it's because Madison was like, a lot of the guys liked her, and then she was kind of she kind of knew it, and then there was a little bit of like, listen, they saw me and it was what it is, which is kind of like what happened to Jess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Back in the day, a couple seasons ago, it was like, Jess like, listen,
she's a beautiful
I know
woman.
I'm good looking,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like the reality is the guys meet me and then they all start questioning their thing. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably, if she got hate for that, like, unfortunately that feels like what that is, but it's like, you know, yeah, it's just toxic dudes across the board with her, and that those two guys were really gross, you know, because even I didn't think Mason was as bad before all this.
No,
like,
me
he kind
neither.
of, it looked a lot more gracious in the pods, and then when it all, you know, obviously he's with Meg and he's with Alex, who clearly ended up being a real loser, and
Yeah,
so
bad
it's
guy.
you could just see that like he turned toxic after like they kind of formed their super group, and yeah, it's a bummer. I felt really bad for Madison. Obviously she wins in all this, like she's gonna walk away with meeting people and, you know, have a better life, but it's like the fact that she had to go through that was really shitty.
I know. I'm glad that she at least had Molly up there.
Yeah.
And Lauren.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Should we move on to Devon and Virginia?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, so Devon and Virginia. I wanted to note that during the wedding dress shopping portion that I noticed that Virginia started crying and she said, "I'm just so tired of dating." And that Devon's a good guy. And I think that...
A lot of good guy talk.
Yes, a lot of like, he's a good guy, he's a good man, he's a good guy.
Not a lot of like, never specifics. With you ever notice that whenever she talks about him, she never goes, "I love these 5 things about him."
Yeah,
it's always like general kind of like, he's a good guy. I need a good guy. I've never dated a good guy.
Yeah.
I am tired of dating. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. I think with Virginia, it was a lot of like, I get the energy from her. Like, she's ready to settle down. She's ready to find her person. And she's tired of dating. Like, dating is fucking exhausting, especially in like this current day and age. Like, it's just so much. And so she's tired and she wants to find the person. And so there's this thing of like, okay, I'm going to try this experiment, and from what I can see, Devon feels like a good guy and I should be with him, but there isn't. I never got from Virginia that spark at all when it comes to Devon.
No, zero. But you know, that's all fine and dandy.
Yeah.
But the final blow was when he pulls out a gift for her, and we're like, wow, look at, he's taking initiative. He's gotten her a gift. Maybe he is kind of growing up. Guys, I don't know if you remember this. He gave her a gold basketball. Made out of gold? No. A regular basketball, painted gold, that says Team Buckley, which is his last name, and then jerseys for each of them. That's like me giving Jess a gold hockey stick
Golden puck
as a marriage gift with a golden puck. You guys, this is insane.
Evan couldn't get over this. You know what's so funny is it didn't hit me the way it hit you. I was like, oh, she was a cheerleader or a dancer, and he's the basketball guy.
She had made it clear, like,
Yeah.
I don't love basketball that much. She's made it clear, like, basketball's your thing.
Right.
So nothing tells someone you don't understand them more
Then giving
than
you
your
a golden
big-
basketball.
than your big gesture to be all about your interests. You know what I mean? Nothing says, I don't really know you, than to be like, I'm giving myself a gift right now. That's what he did. Because it didn't even say like her name on it, didn't have her face anywhere. It was his last name and a gold basketball, which she doesn't even play basketball. You know what I mean? So it truly was, to me, like, I fell out of my chair when he gave her all that gold basketball
That was
stuff.
wild.
I was just like,
it didn't hit me the way it hit you, but when you say it like that, yeah.
insane. It's just always about basketball. When you thought it couldn't be more about basketball.
You know what it is, though? It's because Devon, I think Devon had a picture of Virginia in his mind where he's like, he sees her, and let's be real here, Virginia is
Stunning.
Absolutely stunning. And then he finds out on top of it, she's a doctor, so she's doing well, and she's also incredibly smart. But I think because he kept talking about it, when she made that comment, she's like, "Oh, I can't wait to one day have babies and be working the concession stand during your game." And he kept talking about that. Like, that was what he wanted. And it was like in his mind, it was like the visualization of like my perfect wifey working the concession stand. And I don't even think it had to be Virginia. It was just like my gorgeous wife with my child working the concession stand.
Correct.
I think that was the energy. So it's like, here is this golden basketball. Well, they start leading up to the wedding. What we're seeing with them is the conversations with this prenup talk, where she gives him the prenup agreement. She's like, "Hey, I need you to sign this." It's basically just like, "Hey, we leave with what we came in with is what we leave if anything were to happen." And that's when he's like, "I'm really tired. It's been really busy, and and I'm gonna have my family lawyer check this, and also
and my mom, and my dad read it." And it's just like,
I was like, dude, you're 28.
It's like another one of these just weird, like, so reliant on their families, where it's like, you guys are grown adults.
And listen,
and I have to talk to my mom
would I
about
have
my
maybe
prenup.
my mom
like,
or my dad look over something? Maybe, but I'm not going to say it out loud.
But it's one thing to be like, I'll have them look it over, but it's another to be like
they need
their opinion decides my future.
Yes, they're going to need to. And then when he ended up accepting it, I don't know if you noticed this, but he said, when my parents looked over
they
it,
said it was cool.
They said it was okay, so now we're good.
Like, are you going to a party in high school? I talked to my parents. I said I could go to the party.
Was it a field trip?
Are you going on a field trip? And they had to fill out a form so you could get relinquished as a minor to go on a field trip, because that's what it felt like.
Another thing that I noted.
I never heard once, her go, "I got to talk to my mom about whether I can go to the basketball game this weekend, or whether I need to look at the prenup, or whether it's like." She even had to explain to her mom. Her mom's like, "Oh, okay." She's like, "Mom, this is like the future. It's what we're doing."
Yeah.
Independence. Yeah. Adulthood.
Yeah. Well, something that I noted when they were having the prenup conversations, at one point, I think it was after he signed it. So he was like, "Hey, I get it."
And he had her do the date. Kind of weird too. I don't know. It's just another thing that bothered me. Like, she was 1 degree from her holding his hand and doing the signature.
But after he signed it, and he was saying, and I believe it was after he signed it, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but where he was like, "Hey, checked it, we're good to go. I get it now. It makes sense to me."
Sure.
He then says, "What's your thoughts, though, about, people, I don't know who, but people who say, why sign something like this? Like, do you assume your marriage is going to fail?"
Yeah.
And that was a moment, that was the definition of what Devon did this entire time.
Yeah.
Which is not look at her and say, "This is what I believe. This is what I think. This is what I have a problem with. I don't want to sign a prenup because I feel this, 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 and this." Which, hey, everyone's entitled to their own feelings. Instead going, "What do you think about when other people talk?" Because they'll talk.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I'm just saying. What are your thoughts on the same thing when you address politics with her? It would be like, let's say you knew someone whose family voted very conservatively. Let's just say, and so they vote with their faith. Like, how could you square that away with your? It's like just
and he hit her with
say
it's like how do you square your faith away with being a Democrat?
But he literally was like, he wouldn't ever outright say to her, "This is what I believe," or my family. Like, there was no like taking ownership of his thoughts, opinions, and he just would put that out there, which is why, and I mentioned to you, and I don't remember if I mentioned it on the podcast, but I was thinking, I'm like, if these two get married, I have a feeling, and I said this about Ben, but I'll say it about Devon because they very much remind me of each other.
Yeah.
They want to appear a certain way for the cameras and for people, but I think when you marry them, you would get a very different version. Like, I think Devon would be very, like, all of a sudden she'd marry him, and he'd probably be much more opinionated in their marriage than he's seeming right now, with just a lot of ambiguous, quote unquote, questions about her thoughts on things.
I just think the difference, though, is that like Ben is kind of independently manipulating. I think Devon is still like living at home mentally.
Yeah, sure.
And there's this like just childish, like, I don't know, I got to check with my mom.
And
I
also wanting to be a certain way for the family.
And fake like he's more independent than he is. I also think, to be honest with you, I think the second he met her, it was I don't think this is gonna last. I think she's gonna leave me. I honestly felt.
Oh, you think
from
he thought
day
she was
one,
gonna leave? Yeah.
when she's telling him how much of a nice guy, he is, and not how hot and sexy he is, or how cool he is, or how awesome he is. It was always like, you're such a nice guy, and I never dated a real nice guy before, like you.
Yeah.
He knew from day one, and then the prenup. It was all insecurity based. It was all like, she's out of my league looks. She's out of my league career. She's dated nothing but like rock stars energy. I'm just this guy. And he never moved into fully just being like, you should be with me. We should be together. It was always this sense of like, are you going to leave?
Yeah.
And so I really do believe that like he was always kind of putting off important conversations, insecure about things, not really being honest, because it was always a sense of like, she's going to bail. And I just, he kind of secured his own destiny by acting the way he did.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. Because it's like, you could just see it on her face. She was always kind of trying to convince herself.
Well, the wedding day comes.
Yeah.
And I do have to say, God, his niece.
So cute. I love when the whole thing went down. She's like, what's happening?
No, that made my heart hurt when she goes, what happened? What happened?
And the dad's like, she said no.
And he's like, she said no. Oh, that made my heart hurt for the niece. Oh,
what a sweet
her
baby.
Giggles.
Dude, it was the cutest thing of all time.
I was like, I'm starting to cry right now thinking about it. Like I was just like, well, time to have another child.
Yeah.
Like that was what I was like. She is
so sweet.
So cute. And I have to tell you, day of the wedding, his family, very supportive.
Very supportive. Very sweet. The mom really leaned in, was really sweet.
Everyone was being extremely supportive and lovely, and same on her family's end.
Yep.
Everyone from her family seemed absolutely wonderful, supportive, kind, encouraging.
Yep.
Her friends seemed wonderful. And so because of that energy, I started going, are they going to get married? Because I was like, there's no way, right? And then I'm like, I think they're going to get married. And she kept finding ladybugs everywhere, which is like wild. That inside, there's ladybugs all over her.
Well, it was interesting. Every couple to me was like, I don't trust the guy. She really likes him. I think he's playing a game or not that into her. This was the only couple where I felt, obviously he had his issues and was lying and stuff or whatever, but more than that was me always going, she is going to regret going through with this. Not because of him as much as I can tell from day one, she's trying to convince herself she likes him.
Right.
Like she didn't do anything wrong. It was of course, it was just like, she's not into him.
Yeah.
You know
and
what
she's
I mean?
trying.
Like every
she's
other
like, he's a good
relationship
guy,
was like someone's really into the other person. But this dynamic was like from day one, she was always just like, he's a great guy. I like him. And then she even said during the reunion, it's like, we never even figured out the sexual part. We never figured out the political part. We never figured out.
I don't think that they ever maybe hooked
that's what I'm
up.
saying. So I think she just never got past the just like, we're on a first date.
Yeah. She just probably wasn't very attracted to him. And
his
then,
energy, physically, everything.
And then, but it was just like, he's a good guy. But then all of a sudden the differing politics start coming up. And then like the feelings of the prenup. And it's just like, whoa,
and she always said he didn't want
he?
to talk about it, because she knew that it would be, you know.
And so when they get to the vows, I mean, Devon, he goes first. He says, I do. Yeah. And then Virginia says, I love you so much, but I'm not ready. Literally, her parents gasp.
Everyone gasps.
Everyone's in shock.
This was the only one.
This was the only one
where somebody felt blindsided.
And Devon starts bawling.
I mean, everyone was blown away.
Yes. Because I do feel like he was in love with her, but again, in a way that it was like, I think he had a vision of who she would be. Yeah.
I think it was trophy wife energy.
Yeah. It's like who she's going to be and who I want.
I'm going to have this smoke show on the sidelines, like, Hallmark movie energy.
Yes. Even it was so wild and so emotionally tense that even her dad went and gave him a hug and was like, you're a great man. He said, I'm disappointed also, which I was like, I would have been mad at my dad. I'd be like, don't say that, Dad.
Right.
Like, even if you don't trust me, have my back on this one. But it was very nice that the dad was gracious and was like, hey, you're a good man, But she was saying then in the interview, and it was breaking my heart during the interview because she was like, I feel like I want to support him and I want to be there for him. And I feel like I've let him down. But she's like, there are just depths we did not get into. Politics, he didn't want me to push him on this. Like you said, the sexual relationship. And then she adds a little caveat at the end where she's like, someone gave us a check as a wedding gift. And his mom told me about it. And I waited to see if Devon would ever bring it up to me, but he didn't.
Crazy.
And I was like,
wild move. And then he later on says in the reunion, that I
so
was going to wait till we were actually married. And it's like, well, it's both your guys' money. So that's crazy.
Yeah, let's get to the reunion. Yeah. Because she had said, so there was that, the check that he never brought up.
Yeah.
And
which
then,
obviously wasn't the issue. It was just like, I can't trust this guy.
Right. And then the letter from his ex that she saw the night before the wedding on his nightstand. And he was like, that's my friend. She's with a friend of mine now. We used to date, but we're good now. But the issue was that she was like, but I had to hear from your mom that was someone who you were in a relationship with. So she's like, I'm just having these feelings. And of course, listen, if you're not, and I don't think she was into him. So it's like, you're already not into this person. And then you start feeling like, can I trust them with money? Are they being honest with me about past relationships? And I don't think the vibe that I got from Devon is, again, what I keep saying about him. I don't think it was like, oh, I'm outright lying about the check. I don't think he was trying to pocket the money. I don't think he was outright lying about his ex. But there was a lot of omission going on about just who he was in general, like how he wouldn't say direct things to her and just kind of ask questions. He wasn't actually giving her a real view of who he was. And there was like an omission energy just going on in general.
100%.
So you're just going to leave you feel unsettled as a partner because you're like, I don't feel like I fully know.
But I think it's the growing
you.
up thing. I really do think. I think when you're kind of arrested development, questions about serious adult questions make you anxious. Right? I don't want to have to think about. I just want to think about basketball and hanging out and love. I don't want to have to think about taking responsibility for my actions, growing up, having to handle important topics, prenups, all that stuff. Yeah.
Well, she also says in the reunion that she's like, hey, we weren't in alignment on important things. She says, he didn't want to say certain things on camera.
Right.
And she's like, I don't even feel comfortable telling Devon's views, but I'll be really clear about mine. And I was like, hell yes, Virginia. She goes, I'll be really clear about mine. I 100% support the LGBTQ community. I believe women should have the right to choose. I think that different religions should be valued. Like she said, you saw my Muslim family members in there. And she's like, we are not aligned. Let me be clear about my views. And so that was all I really needed to hear. And we had obviously gotten that energy from him throughout with his conversation with Brittany, with his conversation with politics. But now hearing that he specifically was like, I won't talk about certain things on camera, but off camera, she's like, let me make my views clear. I'm like, I'm clearly reading between the lines here of what's happening. The other drama moment that they had was that she was talking about how after the wedding that, he was like, hey, I wanted to be with her after, but she didn't give me that vibe. And she literally laughs. And she's like, you stopped answering my phone calls and you've been telling people that I ghosted you. She's like, I tried to talk to you. You stopped answering my calls. And I hear you're going around to all the bars saying that I ghosted you. And he's like, no, I didn't say that. And the women are like, yep, I heard you did. And then there was even, I think, one of the women who was like, and I saw that Virginia was, calling you and you weren't answering. And so another guy just, and I'm just like.
Yeah, I know. It was shitty that it ended that way with them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it could have ended graciously. You know what I mean? More gracious.
I agree. And I get that it was extremely painful when you think it's going to happen and then it doesn't. But
yeah, And one thing I want to say, just like also with all, because Devon made a big point of like, I won't talk bad about you. He was being very political too, very rehearsed. But then he also said something that kind of the same thing Ben said, which was this like, we can have differing opinions on things, and we don't have to agree on everything to get married. And these women are making a big deal about these issues. And I just thought, it's true. You don't have to agree on everything, but there are certain things that are pretty big that if you believe in it and someone doesn't, it's pretty important.
Yeah, it's foundational.
And you know what I mean? It's not like you're talking about like, do you spend money on vacation or a car? Do you spend money on, do you like to go to this restaurant or this restaurant? Do you, you know what I mean? Do you like these friends or not these friends? Those are differences you can just chat about. But when it comes to people's rights, the guys hold opinions that take away people's rights. The women hold opinions that give people's rights. So the guy's conveniently saying, I don't think about it, while you have an opinion enough to take away someone's rights. Right? You're the one creating the decision. And so it's wildly convenient just to be like, I don't really think about it, but my opinion does take away people's rights. And then the person who goes, they should have their rights, you go, whoa, I don't really talking about all this stuff. You're the one with the opinion that impedes rights. So it's like a really fucked up way to be, where it's like, my opinion impedes, but I don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
Really, I don't know. I just found that to be, this isn't like a social conversation. This isn't like I'm having a conversation about just social issues. People sometimes do that. Like even Nick kind of said, like, you guys it's the social issues. It's like, it's not social issues. It's like human rights. Very different than like social issues. Like, should we put money in schools or should money go to parks? You know what I mean? It's like, no, we're talking about human rights here. And so I think that's when I feel for these women, where it's like, they're like, no, this is pretty foundational shit.
Yeah.
And I can't sleep next to you knowing that you're that different from me when it comes to human rights. So I don't know. I just was like, all this kind of like narrative that goes around in the world where people are like, you just believe whatever you want. It's cool. And it's like, whatever. But it's like, yeah, for some things. And then some things it's just not cool, in my opinion, at least.
I completely agree with you. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It was jarring. This season was jarring in that way to me.
That's my rant.
I appreciate your rant because I think it's necessary.
Yeah.
I fully agree with you. Ooh, I'm getting hot just hearing you talk about it. I'm getting a little
riled up.
Yep.
Anyway, that's my rant. Sorry, but
no,
I just
thank
feel like
you.
it had to be
Thank
said
you for that rant,
after
King.
watching this.
No, please, let's scream it from the rooftops, my dear. Please.
Yeah.
All right. On the one positive note,
everything was great. Thanks, guys. They were great. Amazing love, beautiful, perfect.
Daniel and Taylor. I mean,
no issue, no speed bumps.
Literally minus the initial. I think you're following me on Instagram.
Who would have thought these two lasted all the way to the end, and not only lasted but thriving a year later. The wedding was gorgeous. The sister on the piano bring tears to the eyes.
By the way, her voice.
Low key was insane.
Like an incredible voice. Yeah. I was crying.
Yeah,
amazing. I think it's the only
amazing.
time I cried during Love Is Blind. For sure this season, because it was this song was stunning.
And their minimal contribution to the reunion was them just being like, everything's good over here.
They're just like,
everything's good over here.
They're like, we just bought a place together.
Life's great.
He did mention his mom had gone through cancer, which it seems now that she's in the clear, thank goodness. But like, their year has been an intense year together. So it's like the fact that they're thriving after this first year together. They were saying how Taylor's, her uncle is in hospital admin, and then like let his dad stay so that he could be. So you're like, these families have become close together. And I even noted, and I had written this down beforehand, during the wedding dress fitting, that I believe Daniel's mom was there with Taylor's mom at the wedding dress fitting. Yeah. And I wrote down, it's a lock. Like if mother-in-law
that's always
is
a
at
good
the wedding
sign.
dress fitting, I don't think I've ever seen it on the show before, where it's like, oh, you invited his mom to come with you to the wedding dress fitting as well. Like, this is a lock. And, I mean, these two, it's just, they have now their Christmas card. They were giving out ornaments that they're so in sync with each other. And their letters to each other before, it was like,
the dad was amazing too when he sat down with the friends.
Yeah.
And then like talked about how awesome his son was. Like, that's pretty awesome, dude.
I know.
To be like bragging about your family and son to the friends. Who
And a lot of guys,
like
dads
really
in that generation,
not that energy.
struggle with being so communicative and loving in that way.
We saw a lot of the other dads being like, kind of boomer energy. This guy was awesome.
Yep. And when you see, it's like, well, look at this. Then this kid that he raised who is so willing to be so vulnerable and communicative with his fiance and now wife. I will say, shocking. They waited until marriage.
Interesting.
And he said that it wasn't intentional.
Yeah, and she said it's not, they just kind of felt that way. It wasn't like because of our faith we decided this. It was just like, she said like, it wasn't just for any, it just kind of just felt like we wanted to. I was like, whoa.
And it was
or
just
like it didn't work out or something. It was just interesting.
It was just one of those things too, where it's like, again, everyone, like some people are like, I want to wait. Some people are like, hey, I'm going to need to have sex with this person before I be intimate with them before I get married. But just, I don't know, there was something about the energy where they were kind of like, I don't know, it just didn't happen. we just love each other and we can't wait for tonight.
They
And
seem
it
so
wasn't,
chill
it
too.
wasn't like a specifically like we will wait.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, yeah, we've just been getting to know each other and can't wait for tonight.
Yeah.
They're so chill.
They're just chill.
Yeah.
And I think when you have two people that are chill like that really care for each other, you're not going to let the BS get in your life. You're just going to be like, we both really like each other and we're both chill. And it's just super cool.
And he was so nervous, which was so sweet. And his vows were so pure.
Yeah.
When he like was reading them and then like went off script for a minute and then was like, oh, hold on, I got to get back. I mean,
they're just very pure people, very sweet.
It just feels like this energy of he adores her and is like, I'm so lucky to be with this beautiful woman. And then he makes her feel so safe.
It's a very safe
and
relationship.
loved.
Yeah.
And grounded and like, I don't know. It just made me feel good.
It felt great.
And maybe it's also against the backdrop of all this mess.
Yep. A lot of gross.
But it really made me feel good after they ended up saying I do. Imagine they're at the altar and he says yes. And she goes, well, you followed me on Instagram before, so I'm going to have to say no.
Oh, yeah.
So she pulls the final move.
Still want to know if he ever followed her or not.
I know. I can't believe they didn't actually talk about
still.
that. And then they
Why
said,
didn't they have someone like working at Instagram like figure this out?
I know. I'm like,
you know?
we need answers. And then they said Operation Consummation, which really made me giggle. But like you said, at the reunion, it's been a year and they're cruising. They're looking very stylish. Now he did get a tattoo.
Wild.
Of her
I love
eyes
it. He goes, it hurt
on
really
his
bad.
chest.
But him saying it hurt really bad was the cutest thing I'd ever heard.
But then when he was also just like, yeah, they're like, why the eyes? He's like, well, she's kind of squinty eyes. One's a little bit bigger than the other. And she's like, you mean my lazy eye? And I was like, this is wild.
You're like, you guys are, but there's an innocence
it's
there.
a sweetness there where they're like, they feel safe with each other. But I believe, I can almost guarantee that's his first tattoo.
Oh, he said it hurt so bad.
And to get just her eyes massively on your chest
It's such
is
a funny
so
tattoo.
intense.
It's a funny tattoo to get.
It's so intense.
It's just so random.
Also, sorry to get into your guys' intimate relationship, but I'm imagining
looking back at your eyes while you're having
being
sex.
on top and looking into my own eyes is, maybe
and looking into your
honestly,
eyes-
maybe it's kind of an ethereal experience.
Maybe some sort of.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm
There's
looking
something
at
there.
me. It's like
Yeah.
I'm having sex with me and you,
Oh,
the
a
three of
threesome
us.
with me.
So yeah, that was it. Congratulations to
Yeah.
them. The only other thing that I did want to quickly make note of is what the fuck with this reunion with the top 5 moments, the sock bin challenge where they literally threw socks into a bin.
It got real like a cruise entertainment show
and I'm like,
moments.
what's happening?
That's just where that bullshit gets in, where you're like, guys, there's someone trying to justify their job on the show.
I was
and they're
just
trying to
like-
be like, all right, guys, you got to have ideas. And it's like, get rid of all that shit and the show's great.
I was like, I'd like to hear more from Madison. Give me 2 more minutes with Madison with more of the receipts, less of the sock bin situation.
I mean, I'm just a fan of bare bones in general.
Yeah.
We didn't need, I know you like the song, the performance at the end. We didn't need the song performance. So random.
Okay.
And then, I know you like the song, but so random. Get rid of that. Even though as much as I love, what's her name that got engaged and then she's launching.
forgot to talk about that.
Very
AD,
beautiful.
yeah.
Good for them. 100%. Again, just felt so corporate the way it was done.
Yeah.
It was like, get rid of all that stuff.
Yeah.
Make it a tight, exciting thing. Get rid of all the fluff. Really takes everyone out of the.
I agree, but
it makes it feel not as genuine.
By the way, congratulations to AD.
Congrats. It was amazing.
Love her.
Love AD.
Love AD. He's so cute.
He's super
They're
good
very
looking.
cute
They're
together.
amazing together.
But by the way,
just the way they did it was so corporate.
But why? They just ruined Perfect Match.
I know.
They met on Perfect Match. We don't know if obviously they leave together.
Yeah, I don't.
And I'm like, why would they ruin Perfect Match in that way? I want to I don't understand. Like, I would have loved to have been surprised watching AD fall in love on Perfect Match and not know that it was coming.
I know.
Personally, I don't like spoilers,
But
and they just gave us this massive
It was just
spoiler.
a bunch of extra stuff that just felt random. But other than that,
I mean, I know the musical performance for you, but
just random.
Alex Warren doing Ordinary. Listen, everybody, I just have to say this first and foremost. Congratulations to him. His song is massive.
Killing it.
That song, Ordinary, was discovered by the Book Talk girlies, and I am part of that community. And so we are very, very happy for him because what a song. So emotional. He crushed. But you do know Nick first musical performance ever on Love is Blind and they don't ask Nick Lachey
to do a Halsey cover?
Or even his own. I don't want to waste another day stuck in the shadow.
That would have been good. Because it would have been less corporate. It would have been hilarious.
Because I want you and I feel
No, that would have been so much better if he would have been like, and he would have gotten on
Everybody
stage.
do yourself a favor right now. As soon as you end this episode, please go and listen to Nick Lachey's original solo album, because I did it the other day and it slaps so hard. Like, it's so good.
Anyway, that's where we're going to wrap this up. We love you guys so much.
We love you very, very much. Thank you for joining us late for Love is Blind, but
still
we
very
had a
fun.
fantastic time. What a mess. Tune in next week for some D&D, some call home. Send in those questions to the call home voicemail, and then let us know, what show do you want to see us recap coming up here.
Comment down below.
And then after that, by the way, coming up soon, we're going to have Bachelor in Paradise, Perfect Match.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to start having some stuff bubbling up here.
Yeah.
So very excited about that as well.
Love y'all.
Love you, family.
Have a great week.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.